Hello my favorite people, we got another community suggested video to do today. This is Formula One explained for rookies. Now as you guys know, we've been doing a lot of car manufacturer videos, driving practicals, learning about international licenses and all that. And that led us into discovering this thing called Formula One. And I thought Formula One was just like another manufacturer like Mercedes or BMW, Bugatti or whatever. But it turns out it's a phenomenon, just like NASCAR, just like Eurovision, and like it's just this big thing. And there's a lot of information to dive into as a newcomer or like new fan of it. So I was suggested to watch a video called Formula One Explained for Rookies by Cleo Abram. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Subscribe if you're new here. Let me know what content you guys want me to do on the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram because I want to get to 10K over there. And here we go into Formula One Explained. Like, how many laps is it? Is there a time frame? The cars just, like, if you crash into something, they obliterate. So what's up with that? I don't know. We're probably going to find out today. Let's see.
The course of the next 66 laps.
66? Jesus. I thought it was just like a one, whoever wins, wins.
You've been hearing about F1 too, right?
Yes.
Cool. Let's talk about it.
Formula One racing into Miami for the first time.
Hottest ticket.
And it's a whole world thing.
Drive to survive.
Drive to survive.
Drive to survive.
This is a car race at over 200 miles an hour in cities all over the world.
Miami Grand Prix, Bahrain Grand Prix, here in Monaco.
With insanely famous drivers
Ricardo. Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world
and
champion.
100-person teams racing.
Again, is it just not a popular thing in America then? Because I've never, like, I didn't even know Formula One was a thing until recently. So maybe it's just like football again, how it's not a phenomenon here, but it's a phenomenon everywhere else.
Famous drivers.
Ricardo. Lewis Hamilton.
Like, who's Daniel Ricciardo?
100-person teams racing cars so advanced that they're practically spaceships and so expensive that they had to make a rule that teams couldn't spend more than $140 million each.
No, that's fucking insanity. $140 on one car. Let's just say we're being penny pinchers. 50 million on one car? That could do so much for the community. That could solve homelessness in America. That could solve poverty, food, health insurance. And they're spending that kind of money on cars, on races, for entertainment. Wow, that is crazy.
And it's only getting bigger. Just look at this. This is from a construction camera at one of 2 new US racetracks. This one's in Miami. This cost $40 million to build, and it hosted nearly 250,000 people over 3 days. That's a Super Bowl worth of people every day. And one of them was me.
Probably brings in
It's
money
the first
then.
ever Miami Grand Prix. We're racing in the States and it's lights out and away we go.
This is the coolest thing. I just love F1. But a lot of people, because of all this hype, they're hearing about it right now for the first time.
Yeah.
And they're feeling a little bit,
I don't understand.
So let's get into it. This is F1 explained for rookies. What you need to know to keep up with this crazy, expensive sport that everyone's suddenly obsessed with.
Lewis Hamilton!
Verstappen holds it!
It's done!
But it's also a look at the bigger question here, the huge question, which is, why do this? Like, why pour so much money, so much technology
Into a car that's gonna blow up?
into F1, into entertainment? The answer is in what we get in return. This isn't just a car race. This is a space program.
Oh.
General growth in interest.
F1's becoming much more of a thing here in the States.
The Monaco Grand Prix. Win the Italian Grand Prix. The Bahrain Grand Prix.
Because we did literally learn, like, the F1 cars are built so well. Like, it's about who can manufacture the best car aerodynamics, naturally aspirated. I guess a big thing still is the tires because they're always popping and stuff. But I guess it's about, like, this could all trickle down into practical use, like for daily drivers and like the making of just common commuter cars, or even hell, trailers or 18-wheelers, like all type of automobiles, basically. It all comes from the F1. Dang.
If you're new to F1, you might know
NASCAR.
its American cousins. NASCAR has the least family resemblance. closed cockpits, oval tracks. IndyCar and F1 look more related. They've got the spaghetti-looking track, open cockpits. But there's one really important difference between these two, and it's the reason why F1 specifically is such a big deal. In IndyCar, all of the cars use the same frame, or chassis, the DW12. So the competition here is mostly in how you race that car. But in F1, every team has to design and manufacture their own cars. And the best part is that they get to improve the cars between each race, or not, depending on how they do. So the competition in F1 actually centers around the car itself. Not just how you race it, but also how you build it and rebuild it again and again and again. This is why I love F1. It looks like the sport of daredevils, but much more than that. It's the sport of nerds.
Engineers probably go crazy then. Sorry, babe.
Okay, each team races 2 cars, so 2 drivers for the same team.
Ooh.
Each event...
That makes more sense why in the last video we did, where the guy was like, he's just, and it was 2 black cars with the same, like, sponsor stickers and stuff, and he's like, well, he's just hurt the team. I was like, what do you mean hurt the team? I thought, like, I didn't know there was a team, but apparently she just said there's 2 drivers, 2 cars.
Okay, each team races 2 cars, so 2 drivers for the same team. Each event, or Grand Prix, is 3 days. Practice, qualifying, and race day. I watch these on TV every time they're on, but this was the first time I ever got to see it in person.
Got to see the car up close, that was awesome.
DHL.
Now I am inside the Mercedes garage.
Truly, I have never had more fun at a sporting event and seen less of what was actually going on.
So right now they're about to do a practice pit.
Here's how this works.
Jeez.
The order of
So
who
many
does
people.
the fastest lap on qualifying day becomes the lineup at the starting line on race day. And passing isn't easy, so where you start is a really big deal. Depending on where drivers finish, they get different numbers of points. After 10th place, no points for you. Drivers want to get the most points themselves to win something called the Drivers' Championship. But teams want to get the most points
How much do the
total
drivers
to
paid?
win the Constructors' Championship. The 2 championship thing actually kind of makes for funny mismatched incentives sometimes.
So it seemed like she ranked them for a second. So as of June 2020, Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren. The fact that Red Bull, they're not even an actual manufacturer, they're a sports drink. Red Bull is over Ferrari? When you think of the Italians, you think of sport car. You got the German Mercedes, McLaren. Isn't McLaren English? Alfa Romeo, Italian. Alpine, AlphaTauri, haven't heard of them. Haas, haven't heard of them. Aston Martin, they're a popular one in America, but they're way down here. And Williams. So again, by this, I'm surprised freaking Red Bull. But is it one of those things where like they literally sponsor the rest of these brands so they automatically are like the most winning? Or do they actually have like their own manufactured car?
To win the Constructors' Championship. The 2 championship thing actually kind of makes for funny mismatched incentives sometimes. You can hear it on the radio when teams have one strategy, like they want to let drivers pass each other, and drivers get really mad about that.
If he's quicker, we let 3. That's very unfair.
Because
But okay.
But generally,
the driver doesn't
everybody
get the credit
agrees about
then.
the big things, which are drivers, race your fastest. Teams, make the best car. All right, here's the fun part.
Lego is here. Hey.
She really is an enthusiast.
There's my driver. Hello, Lewis Hamilton. Think of an F1 car like an airplane upside down.
Airplane upside down.
Both meant to move as quickly through the air as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
But where an airplane's
Aerodynamics.
wings work to lift it up, these cars' wings work to keep it down.
Oh.
Why? Because winning doesn't just depend on going fast.
Rear
it also
wheel
depends
drive?
on keeping control. And that requires a firm grip on the ground. Take a look at the shape of this car.
Where's the engine?
Now watch how the air moves across it. See how some goes above the wing and some squeezes the long way underneath it? That creates a situation where there's higher pressure above and lower pressure below, sucking the car toward the ground. That's actually happening all over the car, not just on the wings. And we could talk for hours about the design features on this thing, how they shape and use the air. Some pull air in through the car to cool it down. You can actually see there's a...
I'm sorry, you guys. Some of you might actually like this, but I think this is the quietest I have ever been in a reaction. Because there's so much information to absorb and like take in. And I feel like I'm learning a lot, so excuse me.
hole there. I think they're trying to imply that on my Lego model. Some actually let the driver release air, lessening that downward pressure and
move
allowing them to go faster in order to pass. It's kind of like a Mario boost. You can actually hear this in a race. Listen for DRS here.
Now, Charles Leclerc is going to have DRS to try and fight it back.
Taken together, an F1 car is just a symphony.
It's like nitrous,
of
but
aerodynamics.
a wing.
I actually got to see them up close and personal when I was in Miami.
We're going there.
I absolutely did not keep my cool. You can see teams perfecting these cars over the years, understanding the need for wings and adding them and changing the shape and pushing our understanding of aerodynamics to shave off.
But again, notice one thing hasn't changed, those dang tires. I feel like, why are the tires so flimsy?
And adding them and changing the shape and pushing our understanding of aerodynamics.
I mean, they
to
get
shave
bigger,
off just
but
fractions of a second. Hundreds, sometimes thousands of people work on this, all for one team.
this is like a real engineering thing.
How much does this cost?
Because I assumed they were cheaply made from how much like they get destroyed in these crash videos. But apparently y'all were telling me some of them are like 15 million. And she even estimated that they can go up to 140 million. $140 million, and if it hits a wallet, boom. All that money down the drain. For what, research? Hey.
F1 teams don't really want to share the details here, so there's a lot of speculation. But they're also companies, and some of them have to file their financials somewhere. So
Taxes?
With a little bit of research into various European countries' reporting requirements, hold on. Dun, 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 dun. Here they are. Annual reports for every F1 team I could find, which is actually 8 out of 10, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Nice.
Pretty good.
As a fan, this is kind of cool. Like,
Red
look,
Bull
this
Racing.
is Toto Wolff's signature. What I learned from all this is that running an F1 team costs anywhere from $95 million to $425 million.
That's our military budget. On some cars. Oh my god. I can't even fathom $400 million. Oh my god.
Ooh, that's a lot of money.
But the year after these were filed, F1 instituted a new rule saying all teams were only allowed to spend $140 million.
Oh, only
So these
140.
reports are going to look a
Only
lot different
140.
for this next coming year.
Oh, good.
Still a lot.
Driver's salary is
No matter
not
what,
included.
F1 teams spend a ton of money.
Yeah.
So
True, because you have to transport these cars to wherever the race is. Not only are you building them, you have to bring the team, you have to bring the drivers, you have to pay the driver's salary. You have to replace the parts once you're at the race. Jeez, that's... Again, is like, how do they fund this? Because, like, Italy alone has Alfa Romeo and Ferrari, and those are just two names. So, who's paying for it? Is it, like, the Italian government? Is it these car companies themselves? Man.
what do they make? These reports show that F1 teams make approximately nothing. They run surprisingly close to break even. Red Bull, for example, made $230 million in revenue, and then add these two up, $229 million in costs. And they ended up with approximately $1.2 million in profit.
I mean, to be fair, that's still a lot of money. I mean, $1 million profit compared to how much that's still a lot of money to make.
Pounds, actually, so that's $1.5 million. These aren't the wildly profitable enterprises I was imagining. So why
A
did
million's
they
a
do it?
million.
Well, take a look at this. This is the Ferrari annual report. Our brand image depends in part on the success of our Formula One.
I was going to say, it's just like people who perform at the Super Bowl in America. You're not getting paid for it, but the potential of all the sales you may get, your name getting out there again, like that huge boost in like marketing is almost just as profitable and equivalent as actual money. So you're making $1 million plus your brand is being shown all over the world and all these people are watching like your brand potentially win. Even if you win, like that's even a bigger boost. So I see both sides. Like it's not just about the money, also it's about the getting your name and brand out there and the potential, I guess, for even increased money in the future.
Racing team. The racing team is a key component of our marketing strategy. It's advertising.
Advertising. It's great.
They use F1 to sell
He's
other
so cute,
stuff,
that
whether
man.
that's luxury
Or he
sports
was.
cars or a sports drink.
Red Bull gives you wings.
I mean, as entertainment, F1 is incredible. But a lot of people do feel that it's somewhat wasteful.
How much does a Formula One car cost?
$400 million.
Is it worth all that money?
This is bigger than F1. It's kind of crazy to think about how much work we as a species put into entertaining ourselves.
True.
But I think what makes F1 feel particularly acute for some people,
Like, as a nurse, I'm out here saving babies' lives. Or I will be once I start residency. And first year, I'm looking at, like, 70 to 100,000, right? But there are people driving cars, like, for example, these people, or NBA stars or football players making 500 million. You say what you want about that. I have no opinion, actually.
is the technology element here. All of this engineering work and all of this energy being spent on 20 fossil fuel reliant cars makes people wonder sometimes if that energy might be better spent elsewhere. Like,
have they ever brought in electric vehicles to F1? I feel like that's where we're going.
But F1 is more than just entertainment. It's better thought of actually as one giant experiment.
They really are developing.
Everything to the extreme. What do you need to create to compete at this level, to keep control at these speeds, to keep the driver safe in these conditions? The idea is that the technology that they build ends up trickling down to all of us non-race car drivers.
Okay, that's what I said.
Is this actually true, or does it just sound good?
It sounds good. I doubt it really does, but
specific car parts that were developed for F1 and then ended up in my car.
And when we're talking about development, we're not talking about your Honda Civic with a big wing on the back. It's not the same, buddy. It's not the same.
But the more research I did, the more complicated it got. People often talk about paddle shifters, for example, but
so I don't gotta drive stick shift.
Decades before
actually,
F1 teams just made them better. Same.
And we had a debate: which one is faster, more better off the line? Off the line, I say automatic all day, every day. But once you get up to speed, then definitely the shifters. Because I was saying, do I need to learn how to drive stick shift to be like able to drive in Europe? And y'all were saying yes, but hey, if they got paddle shifters, I'm all good.
Or does it just sound good? I wanted
the
to
Renault
find
cars have paddle shifters?
Car parts
Let me know.
That were developed for F1 and then ended up in my car. But the more research I did, the more complicated it got. People often talk about paddle shifters, for example, but those were actually developed decades before F1. F1 teams just made them better. Same for active suspension, anti-lock brakes, traction control. What I found was that F1 was less trickle-down and more flywheel. F1 combines technologies that might already exist and then pushes them to an extreme, making them better in the process and then inspiring, or literally manufacturing, better tech for all of us. For example, take thermal efficiency, the percentage of energy from combustion that actually makes the car go, as opposed to being lost to heat. Most combustion road cars have a thermal efficiency between 20 and 30%, which means only a third of the energy actually makes the car go. F1 cars can't refuel during the race, so there's a very strong incentive for them to be efficient. They're at about 50% now, thanks to new hybrid engines, gains that have been dragging the rest of the car industry forward. Or data collection. Sensors on F1 cars collect huge amounts of information and then feed it back to the driver and the team. They didn't invent a lot of these systems, but they use them in ways that they've never been used before.
Because I was sitting here thinking it's all just trial and error. Or like it's the driver mod, like you just have to be a good driver with these cars. But she said there's sensors everywhere. This literally is like NASCAR, or NASA, but just with cars. Like literally.
And that's actually getting more and more important as we move potentially towards self-driving cars. This is the real promise of F1. And it all stems from that original requirement to build their own cars. Basically, we'll do all of this research and development, and we'll create new technologies and also combine all of the cutting edge tech, and we'll push it to its limits and develop it further, and you don't even need to pay for it. We'll race these things against other groups of engineers doing exactly the same thing in this crazy round-the-world sport that lots of people really love. That is actually,
they probably make money back from the tickets,
too. The biggest, most expensive group project science competition of all time.
Yeah. And didn't they say, like, in a past video that the whole Formula One thing was started from a bunch of, like, rich guys taking out their convertible cars and just racing them? So at the end of the day, this has always been, like, a money thing, I guess.
People debate whether or not we should spend money on lots of our efforts to learn. And yet, they consistently push forward both the tech that we actually use and our understanding of the world around us. In this case, it also makes some money and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. We're entertained and they're doing their research
I think once you
to
see
make
the
more money in the
promise of
future.
F1, it allows you to think differently about lots of things. We need people working far beyond the edge, like pulling forward the limits of what we can do. The question now
I like that,
is,
like,
what do we
guard
need to
for the
learn
driver.
next?
The future.
If F1 pushes forward car innovation and the future of cars is electric, does F1 need to get more electric too?
Lotus.
And if F1 doesn't go more electric, does it get farther and farther from its original promise over time?
And the fact that she was saying that, like, all the fossil fuels, there's this huge thing about the economy or environment and like being safe and all this other stuff, and it's naturally aspirated engine. I feel like that's the whole big thing that everyone's always talking about, naturally aspirated. Then if you go electric, it kind of does take away, in my opinion, from the, I feel like, the roots and basis of what Formula One is. But y'all let me know your opinion on that.
Doesn't go more electric. Does it get farther and farther from its original promise over time? Less applicable to the technology that we use and more a novelty. Oh, let's go watch those cars that use gas. I don't know. Now you're up to speed. You can watch a race, you can enjoy it with your friends, and you can also speculate, like the rest of us, where it's all gonna go. I'll be watching with you, and I'll be rooting for my favorite team.
Mercedes. LOL. Okay, now I've got to figure out who my favorite team is. So again, we're learning about like the history and like the meaning behind Formula One, and I guess the big point of this video is like it's not just a race, it's research, it's innovative, it's literally trickling down into just the common man in our normal cars. And the question is it going electric? Now, me personally, I just don't think electric cars are more practical. Like, if I were to take a road trip right now in my Prius or my hybrid Lexus, and a cousin of mine wanted to take their Tesla, we would pay probably about the same in, like, refueling or energy costs. So I don't see the point in electric cars. You guys let me know if it's, like, just, like, another fad thing, like a fad diet, this whole everyone's going electric thing. But Formula One, I feel like it will definitely lose a lot of its meaning if it goes electric too. I feel like does it have to develop with society? At the end of the day, that is kind of the point of it. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.